Hi, good afternoon. This is Jeremy Murphy, and I am a running coach and ultramarathoner in Lincoln, Nebraska, in the central United States of America. And I'm here to talk to you about running with technology today. And we're going to talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of running with technology, and how much technology is healthy to run with, and how much information we really need to get the information that we need. So let me get started with a couple things, and I'll open up the seats in a little bit, but I've got a couple things I want to cover, and we'll go from there. I do want to make it clear that this discussion is about running and technology. We're not intending to talk about peripheral matters. So if you're hoping to do that, or if you're a troll or something like that, you've entered the wrong blad. So please be aware of what this discussion is about. This is a serious discussion about running. We're going to talk about running and technology. That's why we're here. So before I forget to bring it up, this is a little bit, my definition of technology is anything that involves electronics, something that has to be recharged, or something that's electrical, something that might emit light, or deal with safety, things of that nature. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Petzl headlamp. You can see it blinking red. Try to angle it so it doesn't annoy your eyes. But this is a great rechargeable headlamp. It's made by Petzl. Let me see if I can find the company's name just to show you the logo. Here we go, Petzl, P-E-T-Z-L. You can find it with a lot of running stores. Can do blinking red light. You can do solid red light. It can do white light at different levels. You see, there's the blinking. It's doing blinking white here. There's the red. To switch it to white, you rotate it like that, and then there's a brighter white that's probably too bright. Here, I'll angle it. There, you can see it's the white is pretty bright. The red is good for you know, if you're really close to dawn, or you're right at sunset and you don't need a heck of a lot of light, it's a good thing to have. I've really got away from these battery-powered headlamps. The problem that I have is the batteries run out when you really need them, and you've got a dark run, and then you have a dangerous situation where you're slipping on pavement or road, things of that nature. So you know, as we're getting into fall and winter, it's more important to have a headlamp, and you know, Petzl is the one I would recommend. There are several others out there, but you know, Petzl, if you're listening, I'm endorsing your headlamp, and I'm not endorsing any others. I'm putting you in a class by yourself. I haven't found any other headlamps that have functioned as well. And it just, you know, the Petzl connects with a just a USB cable, and this side plugs into the Petzl headlamp. So we've covered the headlamp issue. One of the most important things for a runner to have is Garmin. But before I get into that, I guess I should formally introduce myself. I'm Jeremy Murphy, Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm an asthmatic ultramarathoner. I'm a running coach. I'm an RRCA certified running coach. I'm also blog at runninggrooveshark.com, and I can be found on Twitter at Jeremy P. Murphy. You can reach me through Twitter or my blog, or you can email me at jeremypmurphy@gmail.com. I'll give my other contact information at the end, but I wanted to make sure to tell you who I am. My experience and information is based on, you know, running seriously since 1988. I've been a marathoner since 1988 is the first year that I ran a full marathon. Ran my first ultra marathon last year. Ran a 50K in one day in January of this year. So I have a couple 50K distances under my belt and 15 full marathons. So next thing I want to talk about is, you know, with technology, there's the issue of, is it a blessing or a curse? And there is a great deal of wonderful information that can be gained through having technology and using it wisely with running to improve our lifestyles and make sure that we're being more active. And that can be anything from Garmin running watch to a VivoFit step counter. Some people use the Fitbit, different kinds of step counters. But a lot of us runners, we find that when we're not running, we might not be as active as we think. And so, sometimes we end up sitting on the couch a little more than we may be aware of. And those step counters are revealing, if you've been sitting for more than an hour, the VivoFit will kind of show you little red arrows telling you to get off your butt and get up and do something. So, think about the VivoFit. I'll talk about some disadvantages with the VivoFit, in particular, the one that I have. But the technology, it can be a blessing or a curse, and this is the case with everyday life too, with, how much you computerize, and there's the issue of, we're not robots, but the more technology we wear, the more wearable technology we're wearing, it just makes it more difficult to, absorb all that and find the time to deal with it and analyze the data. And we get this data overload. At that point, technology does become a curse. And I think we need to be aware of that. So I'm going to go ahead and tell a little bird. I guess I haven't done that since going on the air here. So I'd encourage any of you coming in the room to do that too. And at this point, I'm going to unlock the seat and see if anybody wants to come in and ask any questions. Feel free to do that. But I guess I am going to require that you have a profile picture of some sort and a description of who you are, just so that we can keep this focused on running and technology. So here is my favorite running watch is the Garmin Forerunner 620. I haven't turned it on yet. I was going to do that for you while I'm on camera, so you can kind of hear that it buzzes when you get it started. So I'm going to start it now and see if I can angle this so you can see what it does when you boot it up. Here we go. You can see it boots up, and takes about a minute or so. One of the frustrating things with having Garmin is acquiring satellite. And those of you that live in cities with tall buildings, you know what I'm talking about. You're holding your Garmin horizontally, and you're waiting for it to acquire a signal. And I had a heck of a time with this in downtown Nashville. It has all of these tall buildings that block the GPS signal. And so I couldn't get a satellite lock. So I had to go by the number of blocks to figure out how to calculate my mileage. And that's kind of a big deal because I am what we call a run streaker, which means running a mile or more for consecutive days. I'm a member of the U.S. Run Streak Association and also the international entity, the counterpart. So this is the 710th day in a row that I've run a mile or more uninterrupted without help or anything like that. So I'm closing in on a 2-year run streak. Will fall on my wife's birthday if I have the days calculated correctly. It'll be on November 18th. So you can see once the Garmin is booted up and it goes to the, once it locks a satellite signal, it'll go to the zeros. You can see the blinking heart at the top. Can you see that? That means it's kind of trying to link to the heart rate monitor. And I'll show you the Garmin heart rate monitor that goes with it is this one. And there's a chip that just snaps right on there. And like so. And the chip allows you to measure heart rate, VO2 max for oxygen efficiency, measuring the oxygen efficiency, how efficient your lungs are processing oxygen. You got to make sure that you, on the inside of the heart rate monitor with the Garmin, you've got to moisten that spot, and that spot. So it's a little more intensive than, say, where's my other one? I have a heart rate monitor that links to our treadmill, and this is an Adidas. You can see I only have to moisten 2 spots on the Adidas heart rate monitor. Now, my Garmin heart rate monitor is out of commission. I've worn it down entirely. And so I have to drain the battery or something like that. And I have to drain it entirely before I can replenish it or fix it or something like that. And I just, I haven't had the time, or I've been too lazy to look into that. So I'm thinking about just linking the Garmin with the Adidas, which would still allow me to monitor the heart rate while I run. But I'm also thinking about the VivoFit, what's it called? The VivoActive 2 that just came out, was released by Garmin. It will allow people to have a heart rate based on just a wristband. So let me show you the VivoFit. This is I think this is it's the first generation VivoFit. The second generation came out shortly after I think I got the band on this replaced. But you can see there's a little band just made of plastic. And these plastic bands wear out about once a year. You have to kind of get some backup ones. There's a little clip to keep the VivoFit clip together, and it snaps together like this. Demonstrate it. Wanting to go together. There we go. And then this little piece holds it in place. These used to slide off a little bit, and so Garmin did a little fixative, put a little fixative clip on it, kind of holds it on like a paper clip type of idea. And again, this will show step counts, the time, calories burned, how many miles it supposedly thinks you have walked and or run. I need to warn you, the first generation VivoFit does seem to inflate the mileage a little bit. And comparing it to the GPS watch would have it a little bit more accurate. And some people have measured these against actual, more accurate devices and have found the GPS watches are off by a little bit. But, the GPS watches are close enough for me. Now, it has demonstrated it does have a power save function. I'll back out of the picture so I can show you this. You see that in 20 seconds, it's going to go into power save mode, and then it's going to show the clock. So I'm going to let this count down to 0 and go to the clock to show you what it looks like with just the time. But this is an amazing watch. The main problem that I have with it is just remembering to charge it. And as long as I do that, I'm okay. And you can see it's gone back to the time mode. But let me show you on the face, this is the button to turn it on. It'd be in the upper right on your screen. It's the upper left of the watch. There's a button right here is, let's see, the light. I'm trying to remember this. If you're trying to turn on the light, if it's dark outside, I think the light button is either here or here, one of the two. And then I think this is the lap button here on the lower right of your screen, lower left of the watch. And then there's a Garmin Connect button right here, in the lower left of your screen, lower right of the watch. So those are, that's kind of the face, and you can see the design's pretty cool, and it allows a lot of the sweat just to kind of pour through the watch. So I really like that. There used to be kind of too much fabric on some of these watches, so it was, you had to wash them and clean them constantly, and you do have to clean this off, and you just clean it off with a damp cloth and it'll stay pretty good. One thing I do want to mention with charging the Garmin watch, you want to make sure that you shut it off before you put it away. And I'll demonstrate how to use that for those of you that might have a Garmin, might not be aware of this. Remember which button it is. I think it's this one. Yes. Go to this to let's see. Yeah, I have to unlock it. Press in the center to unlock it. And then it goes to the as if you're going to start a run. But instead of doing that, if you press the lower left, it's going to pull up the screen it should pull up the screen to allow me to power it off. So I'm going to see if that'll cooperate. That is not doing it. I didn't press it hard enough. I think you're supposed to hold this down and then it goes to, now I press the Garmin Connect button. I should explain with the Garmin, there's a garminconnect.com. And if you have it says searching for Wi-Fi network, and then it's trying to, all my runs have been transferred. So it says no files to transfer. So but basically, here we go. Power off. You see where it says power off? Yes, no. We're going to say yes. Okay, I shut it off. This is very important. If you leave your Garmin on and you forget to shut it off, what you're going to find the next day is, oh, the battery ran down, or the Garmin measured a 6-mile walk inside my house that I didn't actually take. And it's so frustrating to have to charge. You want to run, but you have to charge your watch before you can go running. You might as well just keep it. I charge mine up to 100% after every run if I can, and then try to remember to power it down. Sometimes I forget to power them down, but so if that happens, sometimes I'm in the power up situation before I can run the next day. But the Garmin watch, the Garmin 620 is the Garmin watch I'd recommend. This model, it does require an independent heart rate monitor. So if that's an issue for you, think about maybe one of the Vivo or Vivo Active products to measure the heart rate by your wrist instead of having to do this. Now the Garmin heart rate monitor, I do like it. I love that it measures the VO2 capacity for my lungs. I'm an asthmatic, so my lung capacity is a big deal, and I want to make sure that that my asthma is on the right asthma management is on the right track. So I'm a little bit out of compliance with checking on that right now because this has been out of commission. But I do have an issue with this in the summer. This heart rate monitor does cut my chest a little bit. And so what I have to do is put KT tape under it. KT tape is kinesiology tape. You can find it at Target, CVS Pharmacy, or you can order it from KT Tape online. And if you put it, you put a strip under the under the heart rate monitor itself, it does prevent it from cutting you a little bit. So just something to think about. For some people, that's an issue, and for others, it's not as big a deal. But Garmin Connect allows you to connect to your friends. It allows you to see maps. It allows you to track your mileage year to date, to customize reports of monthly mileage. It allows you to check whether you've met your goals or not. So, for example, I set a goal that I would run 365 times this year, and I'm up to, 466 or so. So I've run a little more than my goal there. But for example, another goal, I have a goal that I will run this year, that I'll run at least 2,015 miles this year, and I'm up to 1,669 miles. So I know I have at least 346 miles to go. And I've got to knock that out in 2 months. So I've got to run, 175 miles or so to make sure I have a little cushion. There'll be a couple of days that probably have to run light due to the winter weather and such. So it allows you to check on things like that. Now, Garmin watches do link with some other important things to think about that'll help keep you active. And one of those is called MyFitnessPal. And I discovered MyFitnessPal a couple years ago. I was having problems with high cholesterol and wasn't aware of that. And my doctor told me, well, you have to make changes. You have to be more active. And I said, well, what does that mean? And so my doctor said, well, be more active and I'm going to let you figure it out. So I talked to some people. I talked to my brother. He gave me some suggestions. I backed off from my meat consumption. I cut that to 5 days a week instead of 6. so I don't eat meat anymore on Monday or Friday. But I use MyFitnessPal to monitor my fitness. So that takes my Garmin data, is imported into MyFitnessPal, and you can find MyFitnessPal at myfitnesspal.com. You can get it on your phone. So you can, it's my iPhone 6. You just, I have MyFitnessPal there in the front screen. You can see it's over here. Got this in airplane mode, so it's not going to probably boot up soon enough to show you the app. But anyway, you can log your food. You can log your workouts. If you go for a walk, you can log that. So if I walk with a dog, I will log that. And then at the end of the day, if you need it, you can find out if you're over or under your calorie goal. And I used to log all my calories in MyFitnessPal on a daily basis, and that just got to be a little bit tedious. If you're, for example, if it's Thanksgiving dinner and you're trying to log all your food on MyFitnessPal, I mean, it seems ridiculous. You have to give yourself a little of a break sometimes, and sometimes you have to let a little bit go. So I still log on MyFitnessPal every day, and I'll log at least some of my food, and I may not log every single thing. I try to, but there's only so many hours in the day. We all have our priorities. So I've tried to comply with my food goals, 90 and 95% of the time, but I'm not logging every calorie anymore. I used to do that just to force myself to get back in the habit of eating healthy, being healthy, making the right decisions. And, it's a tool that's out there for athletes or others that I might work with. I may possibly require that they consider something like MyFitnessPal. It wouldn't have to be that app precisely, but ideally that would allow me to have daily contact with people. And I'm linked with a lot of other runners and running coaches from around the world that I've met on MyFitnessPal, and some of them are here in Nebraska and some are overseas in Europe or elsewhere. But it's just interesting to see what workouts people do and things like that. It just gives you ideas for workouts, cross training. I used to look at food logs to see who was eating quinoa and kale smoothies and things like that. So you figure out who has common interests and that type of thing. So highly recommend MyFitnessPal as an app for you to consider. Garmin Connect, I mentioned, is at garminconnect.com, and Garmin has great support. If you ever have anything go wrong with your Garmin products, let the company know. I had I'm going to hold up the heart rate monitor again. I had a heart rate monitor that cracked. Let me see if I can figure out. I think it was cracking on this side. I'm trying to remember the picture. It was either on this side or this side in the center. But it just got cracked, and it got to the point where it wasn't reading data accurately and all that. And so I sent Garmin a picture, tweeted them a picture, and they responded very quickly and got me a complimentary band to replace it. But if you run a lot and you're wearing this every day, they're going to wear out. It's going to crack. So that's the other reason that, maybe unless you have a heart condition or have a strong reason to monitor that in this manner, I don't know if I'd necessarily wear one around my chest every day. Maybe having a wristband one, if you can find one that's accurate enough for your purposes, maybe that would be a better alternative. And, it's certainly one that's not going to cut your chest as much. So the Adidas heart rate monitor, that I haven't had any problem with that one cutting my chest, but I pretty much have only used that one with our treadmill. And we have a Boston Marathon treadmill that does incline of up to 20% and a decline of up to 6%. And you can run anywhere in the world. And so you can pick a map, you can draw a map, you can buy a map from ifit.com, and it will allow you to, race others. You can set up competitions and race on different courses. I love that it has different aspects of the Boston Marathon course that I can run. So that's, for someone that's never qualified for Boston, but I would really like to. That's something that I'm really hoping to achieve someday. And I want to do that. I want to qualify for Boston. I know you can, that you can run it for charity. And I think that's a great thing to do. But I want the goal of reaching that mountain and reaching that summit and being able to qualify by time for my age group. And I think it's a 3:20 or so pace that you have to run to qualify for Boston for my age group for, mid 40s folks. So, okay. So we've talked about Garmin Connect. We talked about Garmin watches. There are some Garmin watches that have heart rate monitors embedded with them within the watch. So think about that. And then maybe you're not having to buy a watch and a separate wristband. I usually wear the VivoFit. When I wear it on my right hand. I'm right-handed, so I wear the Garmin watch on my left hand. That way my dominant hand can manipulate the buttons, and sometimes I gotta switch that around with running with dogs. That's a whole other blab, though. Running with dogs is an adventure. Okay, so you want to maybe have a backup plan in case your Garmin fails or can't acquire the satellite signal, that type of thing. And that's where having a phone or something like that with apps on it is very helpful. So, a couple of backup apps that you might want to think about. One is Runkeeper. Runkeeper is a great app. I don't know. Runkeeper kind of let me down with accuracy in the summer. The mileage just wasn't quite close enough. It was like way off. So I've kind of written off Runkeeper for myself, and I know they've done some software upgrades since then, and hopefully, I can take a look at that in the future and see if that's closer to being accurate by now. But the one running app to rule them all, if there is such a thing in a Lord of the Rings sense, is called Strava. And Strava.com has, is where you go to log in. Want to say hi to John, who's joined us. And we're just talking about running technology here. But Strava is a wonderful app. It allows you to race people around the world, see their maps. It allows you to embed pictures. It's a beautiful app. It allows you to track how much mileage you put on different pairs of shoes. So I have about 6 different pairs of shoes in there, and I probably don't police this carefully enough, but if I'm meticulous enough, I'll go in there on a daily basis and switch it to the correct shoe and check how much mileage on that shoe. And, the one thing you don't want to have happen is to have shoes break or malfunction in the middle of a run. And if you know how many miles you put on those shoes, that's less likely to happen. You don't have pieces of your shoe just randomly popping off. I've had it happen on 2 pairs of shoes in the past 6 months. And in the first one, I really wasn't checking the mileage carefully enough. And the second one, I think I just kind of stepped on something wrong. So, okay. Yeah, we all have, I appreciate that. We all have running days fluctuate kind of depending on how much, when we get started, and injuries and age, other things can interfere. So want to say hi to Coach Michael for joining us. Just talking about running and technology here. We were talking about Strava, and Strava is an app. You can have it on your phone. And let me see if I can find the app. There's Strava. It's got an orange display. And you can see, open it up, and it'll start showing all my friends' runs and how far they ran, what pace they ran, whether they ran their fastest pace on a specific course. And it's just a beautiful way to connect with people, and you can give them a high five just by liking their run. And yeah, tech is a love-hate thing. I've struggled with that myself a little bit to figure out how much tech is healthy and whether we can get to a point of, I don't know if low tech is a good way to put this. I think of it as tech light. You know, I used to monitor all my steps and all that with my VivoFit, and now my VivoFit's on the fritz and not working anymore. And, you know, I've put my heart rate monitor on the side because that battery's worn out. But we, you know, and I know you have ways to measure that by wrist now. And yeah, I think, you know, sometimes people are, you know, we have a lot of weekend warriors that like to take it easy during the week and then try to run like, you know, like they're not ready to on the weekends or something like that. And then they're really paying for it with an injury or just fatigue is a big issue. You know, and that's partly, you know, technology can help you really look at whether you're overtraining or not. And I've had that difficulty myself. You know, I've noticed if I'm monitoring VO2 max and my VO2 max does this downward trend, and I know I've got a problem. I know I've got to back off or take a rest day. And, you know, one advantage of the Garmin watch, and I've already powered this off, but for demonstrative purposes, this is the Garmin Forerunner 620. After you run, if you look at it right away, it'll say how many hours recovery until your next run. And sometimes it's way off, but sometimes it's really trying to tell you something. I mean, if it tells you have a 56 to 72 hours of recovery time is suggested, you know, you've either just blown a gasket or you just ran 20 miles or something like that. So, so I find that, you know, I used to follow that really closely and get upset when it said 48 hours recovery or whatever. And, you know, I used to be happy when it say I only need to recover for 6 hours because you know, the reality is I'm in my 40s. I run a couple times a day, a lot, because I take the dog for a run and she usually needs at least a mile run. And then I go for another run after that, after the dog's worn out. And I, you know, Jeff Galloway and others have said, it's healthy for people in their 40s to run a couple times a day, but we shouldn't be overrunning our ability or overtraining. So we're blowing a gasket 2 or 3 times a day instead of, you know, doing one run easy and one run at a little higher intensity. And then maybe a 1 mile cool down if you have time to kind of do the running sandwich, if you will. That doesn't always work. It just kind of depends on our time we have available in that thing. So, yeah, that's, I guess one thing that I'll really emphasize is that if you need help with your running, that there are coaches that are available, and that coaching is very helpful. I've actually never really had a coach since high school was the last time I had one. When I started running marathons in 1988, I kind of took over my own coaching. I did think about hiring a coach to run my first 50K last year, but I decided to continue that on my own. And, you know, and then this year I became an RRCA running coach. So, but yeah, people do need to listen to their bodies. And I think a lot of times just having someone to listen to them and really look at what they're doing and analyze it and seeing, you know, are there signs of trouble here? Could someone looking at an injury or training in the wrong way? Is someone overtraining and or they're not tapering enough, or they're not eating the right food, or not taking enough rest days? I mean, there are just so many complicated things that can come up, and we as coaches have the ability and I think the responsibility to tell people, look, you can change these couple little things and it might help you a lot. You know, as runners get older, it might not be as healthy to run 7 days a week unless you really minimize your mileage on a couple of those days, or the intensity at least. So I tweak that by just running a mile on Mondays usually. And, you know, that allows me to, I'm very careful with this run streak to make sure that I'm kind of doing, a hard day, an easy day, a hard day, an easy day, and making sure those easy days are there, even though I don't necessarily like them as much, but I make sure with the help of technology that that is kept under track. So I'm going to let Coach Michael in here. Michael Merlino's going to join us.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Good. I've got this. I moved my desk, so can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Been kind of watching on Blab a little bit, man. I know you're RRCA like me, certified like myself now. So is that, have you done that recently or?
Yeah, I did that in June of this year.
Oh, cool. Great program. I don't know, who's your instructor? I'm just curious.
It was Randy?
Yeah, Randy, Crazy Randy.
Yeah. He calls himself that, doesn't he?
He's Aceta. Is it Aceta?
Randy Aceta. Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
I think it's Aceta. Yeah.
Yeah. He makes it. I took one of the very first ones when they really, 2 years ago, they came to Houston because they started traveling around, and they made it more of a formal. It just wasn't loosely done. It was more of a formal program that he was coaching. So, but I'm sure they've tweaked it a bit since then, but a great program. Yeah.
I was very impressed with it. Yep.
Yeah.
So where are you from, Michael?
I coach. Well, I'm here in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
So I coach. My group is called In Flight Running, and it's a kind of a mishmash. I coach true newbies at the 5K level, all the way up to the marathon level. Primarily marathon, half marathon is my most of my peeps, but the 5K level is great because that's what. Basically, if you have a pulse, you can pretty much train with me in Houston. Okay, yeah. I made it really simple. If you got a heartbeat, you can train. But yeah, that 5K, 10K level is nice because the beginners, and I've got walkers in that program that are wannabe runners, so they can start running, run, walk, like the Galloway thing that you mentioned a lot, and move up that way through the ranks. And yeah.
Do you have Galloway groups in Houston?
There is an official Jeff group here in Houston.
Okay.
Actually, one of my coaches was a Galloway coach. I coaxed him into my program, but yeah, Jeff's got I don't know how big it is in Houston. It's probably at least 100 people, but he's got a chapter here in Houston. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And I probably like yourself. I trained for my first marathon off of Jeff's first book. Not marathoning, his original.
The book on running, that one?
The book on running, yeah, the original. Okay. And, I love his concepts, but, as you know, my gosh, your head can explode. And that's the problem a lot of runners have. Your head can explode if you, a lot of times I just kind of stay away from Runner's World because there's so many conceptual things out there in coaching. And so what I try to do here in Houston, you probably find yourself doing this with your own training, but especially people I coach, because they're everyday people that don't have Nike contracts, and so I love some of Jeff's things. Some of my things I had a chance to at one time to chat with Frank Shorter, which you're probably old enough to know who Frank Shorter is, but and Frank trained on the same track and trained on that Olympic team with Jeff. Oh, Jeff was kind of always in the shadow of him as far as what happened on the marathon side of it. But it's funny, I had a chance to pick his brain, and his conceptually, the way he coaches or he would coach people is entirely different than Jeff's. And then you read, of course, he's got a lot of data to prove that the run walk thing works. And so I just kind of look at another great coach is Greg McMillan.
Yeah. I've really been impressed with his tweets and gosh, all his
that guy's money, man. That's
amazing.
Yeah, and I basically tell my runners to buy his app. I mean, he's got a $4.99 app. It's called McRun because I want them.
It's called. What did you say? It's called
McRun. And actually, we're talking tech. I'd love to throw some things out. Maybe you haven't heard of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tools, but McRun. It's $4.99. It's the online version of his online free calculator.
Oh, okay.
So what's cool about Jeff, though, he's taken these algorithms that have been out there for a while. You've seen them in Runner's World for years. It's based on this running algorithm that kind of says that, over the course of from point A to point B, a start to finish of any type of distance, whether it's training or whether it's racing, that, most runners will wear out at a particular rate as glucose stores get low and things like that. But he's taken those basic algorithms and he's tweaked them on his own based on what he's seeing with people he coaches. So they're pretty realistic, from a Boston qualifier to a pro athlete to a newbie runner that's barely making a 6-hour marathon. So I highly coach and recommend with my group in Houston that they use that as a tool, because you're talking pacing earlier. Pacing's what comes out the other end.
Yeah.
I do VO2 max testing as a part of my practice in Houston. So it's body awareness. It's true cardiopulmonary respiration and exchange that leads to pacing.
Right.
So my comment was not really dissing the technology. It's just that sometimes you can create monsters with technology.
You can.
Meaning,
and I have that.
Now it's like a video game every time I go out the door, and I got to beat myself, and you truly will beat yourself into the bloody ground if you keep doing that, So, and I've got a lot of living, breathing case studies to prove that, So Garmin's great, but there's this other side of that, and believe me, I'm a geek, man. I could probably list 20 different applications I use to coach my people here in Houston, that I highly recommend anybody. And it helps me manage my business because I've got a fairly large group, about 100, well, close to 200 if I lump them. But there's this other side of it. Like, I just ran an 8:30, basic training run. So now I'm going to run an 8:15. Now I'm going to run an 8. And they're, based on who you are as a runner, and I'm a fitness trainer too, so I kind of get the muscular side of it. You snapshot in time, there's only so much torque or tension or pressure that you can put on your tendons and ligaments at that particular time. And I think a lot of people don't see the anatomy side of this. And inevitably, I can almost, in my group, I can almost predict when someone's going to get injured before they get injured. Just based on, because I can look at their Garmin data. Like, I use Training Peaks, which is another great tool, Training Peaks.
Okay.
That's more of a coaching platform. So I build my schedules on that. They can pull up their schedules online or on a phone app. And what's cool about it is they can report their Garmin data. They can dump their Garmin data on Training Peaks. I get an email as a coach when they dump their data, so I can review their data and look at it and go, "Hey, that's great, Joe, but based on your recent race time, Macmillan app tells you that your training pace for your long run should be, I'm just talking a lot of 9:45. And from what I've seen, you're running it like an 8:45. So, FYI, I've got 20 different packs of runners in my group. You may want to just downshift to another run,
right?
Because this gets into fat store burning. You don't want to chew muscle tissue up when you're running, if you're running too anaerobically, because it's going to throw off things like ammonia and lactic acid buildup, which can really cause havoc, not only during training runs, but forget that, when it really counts when you're running.
Yeah.
So, you're totally on point with the whole, there's just, running seems like such a simple exercise, literally an exercise.
It should be, shouldn't it?
Man, but there's so many, and I've my 14 years of a run coach and 18 as a fitness trainer now. There's a lot more to it. I really coach people to do the small things right, because you can knock the ball out of the park. I got people in my 60s in my group that are still PRing, but they're the ones that are willing to listen and do the small little things right, and not to use a baseball analogy, but just knock the ball out of the park every time they go out the door and put the shoes on.
Yeah.
So, and those little things are huge, man. As you're a certified coach. Yeah, those are, it's hilarious because I'm 51 and I didn't buy my first Garmin until I ran the New York City Marathon last year.
Oh, wow.
And then when I bought one, I've got it right here. I've got the baby, I call it the baby Garmin. This is the 10? The 10?
Okay.
Because when I ran New York, I'm like, okay, I'm in trouble now. I really need to know what my pace is throughout, like down to the second, right?
Yeah.
And so it was hilarious because I'm at the expo for the New York City Marathon last year, literally a year ago this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to find the Garmin booth to find the guy to show me how to use a stupid watch. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I want it. These are the data elements I need. You know, I don't want any fancy stuff. I want to know, you know, cumulative pace per mile, like as of now, down to the second, you know, how long I've run so far, you know, maybe an alert. I wasn't running heart rate monitor on it, but, and then I told the guy I was a running coach and he looked like me. I was crazy, man. But, you know, I'm just kind of old school. I've got so many people that wear Garmin's. I can pull up to a runner because I'm not a clipboard guy, run with them. And I go, hey, what's your pace? And they look at their Garmin. I don't even need a Garmin technically to coach these guys.
Well, you know, you raise an interesting point. I think a lot of us have run intuitively, at least at times, where you're somewhat detached from technology. And I'm struggling to find that sweet spot myself. I mean, I've kind of, I need the VO2 max data because I have asthma and I need to monitor that somehow. You know, the heart rate data, I don't know that I really need it on a daily basis. Although I told people you can get the newer VivoFit to have the heart rate data on your wrist. And I think some of the Garmin watches have that too, right? I think that's what I've heard or read.
Yeah. And and then then I've seen the other world, which, I bought VO2 Max, testing technology and equipment. Man, I've had mine about 8 years. I use Core Technology. They're out of Utah, Core. Okay. They're one of the original. It's mental grade equipment is really what it is. And so it's looking at respiration, because there's this whole, my God, you and I could have a blab on this and people be jumping. This is like trying to, talk about how, to do CrossFit or not do CrossFit. There's like two different extreme cases of don't do it. Going to kill you, and do it because it's going to make you, strong as an ox kind of thing.
True.
But so what I'm talking about here is lactate threshold testing, which is when they do the pinprick and they're looking at lactate in the blood and true respiration. Now the triathlete guys, they're kind of more into the freaky lactate threshold thing. Pure runners and a lot of other coaches, they kind of tend to go towards VO2. Now, blood changes pretty dramatically. Your respiration and your fitness level don't change that dramatically over the course of one day. So I decided along the way to do respiration. But getting into heart rate, it's really, the analogy I use, it's all about the heart. The heart never lies. So and this is, you're going to laugh because if anybody out here that's just US right now, but if you're a runner, man, I mean, your brain can get you to do anything. Once you know the sport of running, your brain can get you, your brain can say, hey, legs, run fast. Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't be running fast, but run fast, and you can get happy feet. But what's in the middle, the heart and the lungs, that's truly what a lot of people need to focus on and be coached on. And sometimes the watches, we're getting back into tech now, they're very general estimates of what your VO2 is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What if you're a guy who has larger lungs than the average guy? Maybe you got better respiration. If you've got asthma, the equalizer with VO2 is it's going to look at your exchange, based on that condition. So it's going to be true to who you are, based on your medical conditions and all that. So, so it's, the drill. You come up with the heart rate zones, but then you can use those heart rate zones for training. There's if you want to read some cool stuff on heart rate training, look up Philip Maffetone. Now that guy's crazy.
Oh, I've read, I read that book. Yeah. And that was,
and it's really hard. It's to get your head around that as a runner. Cause we're all competitive at some point, we compete with ourselves, right?
Oh, absolutely. And with each other.
Yeah. Well, I tell my youngins, listen, you guys in your 20s, I'm not, if you guys are ahead of me in a race, I'm not even gunning for you. Yeah. If I see a guy with gray hair, I'm going to take him out. Okay.
You're coming after me, basically.
Yeah. If I see a guy that's about your age, I'm going to go after you. If there's some 20-year-old that's blown by me, I'm like, see you later, pal. Have fun, man. I'm not going to kill myself.
Well, you're always gunning for the finish at the end. You see somebody pass you and you think they're in your age group and you gun it to pass them and then you realize they're like 2 or 3 age groups below you.
Yeah. But at the same time, some of those races have the graphic, you know, I don't know if you've seen, you know, where you're the, you know, the dots.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're showing dots on the map and you're here and it shows you the people in your age bracket you could have beat. Have you ever seen that dynamic?
I have not seen that. That would.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Some races, Houston Marathon used to do it. It's like this, it's literally a schematic drawing, like an aerial view of dots on it. Okay, say the finish line's here. And there's different colored dots in different age brackets. So you can pull it up by gender. And then it what really makes you sick is like, this is like, say finish line's here, you're like a mile out. Like how many people were ahead of you that beat you that were you're in your age bracket. So that's kind of disheartening where you're like, man, if I would have picked it up another 30 seconds pace per mile, you know, last mile, I could have taken out 10 guys in my age bracket, you know, but even that kind of crap comes to mind, you know.
Do you have a favorite running app that you use like with your phone or anything like that?
Man, I use a lot. I mean,
I like Strava a lot. Strava is one that I kind of describe as the app of all apps, the Lord of the Rings sense. But
yeah, no, I don't know much about it. I know a lot of my trail runners love it. It seems to be more of a on the trail running circuit. But I haven't pulled it up. Is it similar to Map My Run? You can map out your routes.
Yeah, and you know, there's a free version and a an advanced version that you pay a little bit for. It gives you more advanced information and that type of thing. But I just love seeing everybody's map from all. It's somewhat social. I mean, there are competitions. You can join challenges every month, and so you're seeing your friends are joining challenges. So you join the challenges to see if you can, you know, get the challenge before they can. You know. It's a little bit of competitive camaraderie that I think makes running kind of more interesting. And sometimes, as long as we're not making it all about, you know, each other, because I think running is much more powerful than that. And I'm sure you agree with me.
Map My Run has some features like that. I have all my routes. I build them in Map My Run.
Okay.
Because what's cool with Map My Run, especially if you're coaching people, you can like for example in Houston, I've got like over 275 routes built in Houston. So, and you can make them public, and just so you know, the people you tell about have the link to them, but like the whole public can't see them. You know, it's been kind of shaky though with them because Body Armor, is it Body Armor or Under Armour? Under Armour bought the app.
Oh, okay.
Kind of crappy since then. So they've worked the kinks out, but it's, you know, hasn't been a smooth transition. But
yeah, they gobbled MyFitnessPal too. So
yeah, they gobbled them up, everybody. Yeah, but they had some social things in there. But then when I was linking to people that I was friended to in there, as a coach, it was driving me crazy because anytime anybody finished a run, it was fun for a while, but I'd get these alerts. So after about 20 alerts a day that, you know, Joe just ran and hit a personal best on Map My Run, it's like I had to kind of turn all that stuff off. But you can track people, you can track your friends on there now. I think Strava does that too, right? You can track them.
Yeah, so I think Runkeeper does too. And although the Runkeeper, I didn't like all the alerts either, and there were some mileage discrepancies that I didn't like, and you know, those inaccuracies caused me to turn back to Strava as kind of my backup now. If my Garmin isn't working or I can't get a satellite, I just go to Strava directly. And, you know, that way, at least as a run streaker, I've got to be able to prove my mile a day to, you know, keep the streak intact as long as I can. So.
Yeah. But you know what? On the lines of that, I heard you talking about it earlier. You know, that's something to think about. There's a lot of data out there now. It's just a weird thing, man. It's like it's like the whole running shoe thing, and get ready for that, because when the Born to Run movie hits, it's going to be phase 2. So get ready for that one. You know, we've gone from, you know, cushioning's good, stability is great, to we need to be running in bare feet, in Vibrams. And then, the local running store, the local Fleet Feet in Houston basically had to dump them and do a Groupon to get rid of them because then the bottom dropped out. Now now we need cushioning. Let's go to Hoka,
Yeah.
And then the movie's going to come out. We're going to be right back. The car's going to be back in the ditch too. Maybe we should be minimalist again,
Well, I can give stories about, I had a rough fall with the pavement in March, and I happened to be wearing 5 fingers, and I don't know if that was why or not. Part of the problem was I didn't have a headlamp. I wasn't wearing a headlamp in the dark, but I tripped over a huge crack in the pavement, and I don't know if it was related to shoes or not, but, and I'm really wasn't hurt that badly or anything, but, I wonder if I was wearing different shoes, if I would have even fell all the way, So I've kind of gone back to the 4 to 8 millimeters seems to be kind of a healthy drop range for me. And, and then the trail shoes are a different story. And so, I have 5 fingers, but I use them for walking the dog or stuff like that.
Oh, that's perfect. My podiatrist here in Houston, who speaks at the international level, like at the American podiatrist, whatever. He was actually an ex-president, and he was on a panel where he took the they had the pro and con, like a open forum thing. And these are physicians talking on, for or against minimalist. And he was against but he does say that, if you're going to go shopping and run errands and walk the dog and maybe just a little baby 3-miler, the Vibrams can have some benefit because you do work some stability muscles in the foot and things that don't quite see the light of day as much as if you would if you're going, with the full blown shoe.
Yeah. Well, and it's safer if you're running with the dog. It's safer than wearing sandals or something like that. And you obviously can't run in those safely. You're gonna get hurt. So but they seem to work well for that. But you got to watch out for huge cracks in the pavement. I've had to take some pictures and report a couple of those here to try to get them repaired because I don't want other people to get hurt and hit their heads like I did.
But I don't know, getting back to that with mileage, look at what's happened with that. And I can just tell you, in my program, I've got a sweet spot with my runners. I think I've found. Now, I'm not saying it works for everybody, but, listen, I train with Galloway's schedule, okay, which is beginner schedule. And that dude was telling me to do a 24-mile training run. Now, it worked, but I was in my 20s when I did it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best solution for a lot of people to do a 24-mile training run before a 26.2 foot race.
It depends on the speed of the training run. But,
right.
if it's a super slow one, I think you can go 28 to 30 and it won't hurt you.
Yeah.
If it's too fast, though, if it's too fast.
There lies the problem, my friend, because the average human being is not going to run slow on a long run.
You're right.
There's 3 words that I sound like a broken record every Saturday during our long runs, and it's please slow down, and the ones that get that, they'll knock off PR after PR after PR. The ones that don't, like the phone call I got yesterday from a young lady who was pacing out way too hard all season. She's had hip injuries. Now she's got a soleus injury, and I was trying to triage her injury on the phone, knowing that probably what she has 4 days before the New York City Marathon is a stress fracture, and she's going to have to throw the whole season out, and it's unfortunate, but I could see it coming like a runaway freight train as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I really hate saying I told you so as a coach, but a lot of people don't realize, and this goes back to, running the mile a day thing that I was trying to bridge this to, but there's a lot of research now that shows you don't need high mile, maybe not the way to go is high mileage. Maybe it's consistently lower mileage that adds up to more mileage net per week.
Yeah.
In chunks. And like you mentioned the 2-a-days earlier, that'd be another way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to have a good percentage of your mileage every week that's run, very, very aerobic to do that, So
yeah, and I think Galloway's right. I think you can do maybe 3 runs a week and still train for a marathon effectively, as long as you have a systematic plan and you're sticking to it.
yeah,
So,
but people have families and they have big. Here's the problem. And it's speaking as a coach. And, it'd be me too. It'd be you too. But there's always a goal. There should be a goal. When you get up in the morning, like, really, who wants to, I guess there's people that do this. It's not me, but who wants to really get up in the morning and run pretty consistently for 6 months and not have it lead anywhere? Okay. Mm-hmm. Most of the people that they're going to call you or work with you as a coach or me, there's a goal, and it's usually 13.1 or 26.2 or 5K or whatever, or just run my first race, period. But a lot of times the goal is there, but there's a big disconnect between what do I need to do realistically to get to that goal.
Sure.
And a lot of people talk a lot of noise about they get caught up in the sport of running. I've seen way too many runners' careers ended, way too soon. And I'm talking in their 30s from injuries that should have never happened. And it's overuse, it's over torque, it's over mileage, over pacing, over mileage, too much torque in the body too soon, tendons and ligaments break down, connective tissue breaks down, stress fractures set in, and they're just never the same runners again the rest of their lives, and it's because they're just not willing to really listen to true principles of exercise physiology.
Sure. What about overstriding? Have you run into that much, tracking that with technology to prevent injuries?
Yeah, well, I do video gait analysis now. Okay. So I take a hard look at that when I suspect problems. It's actually a piece of my coaching business that I'm testing now. I'm going to be melding that in, because it's like you have to. I'm just finding, and it's weird. This is later in my coaching career. This has taken me about 14 years to, it really is about things like heart rate. It really is things about like heart rate. I guess what I'm saying, if you look at the human body as a car, you gotta take it in for a tune-up once in a while. You got to figure out the dynamics behind what makes it tick or what makes it run. Mm-hmm. And those things are things like VO2 max testing, taking yourself up for a test drive and running some 5Ks and 10Ks once in a while.
Yeah.
I think a lot of marathoners and half marathoners, in my group, I warn them, like, you guys, don't be marathon snobs. You can go out and run a fast 10K and kill yourself. Okay. That's 1/4 of a marathon. You don't need 5 or 6 half marathon warm-ups to get ready for a marathon. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of over racing going on just to earn medals that doesn't lead to the end result, which is I really want to PR my next race in New York or Chicago or whatever you're doing it.
Sure.
So I don't know. I think there's a disconnect there, and I think people read way too much Runner's World magazine. I think there's a lot of hyped up crap in that magazine that's like, 10 steps to your next greatest, marathon or whatever. And a lot of times the principal things aren't in. There's some good articles, don't get me wrong, but there's some where I'm like, they're missing the principles here. They're just hyping this thing up, and
yeah. Well, and we forget fundamental workouts like, people might just start doing fartlek and not doing tempo runs and Yasso 800s. And, of course, Runner's World writes about Yasso 800s a lot with, I think Bart still writes for them quite a bit, or they feature him.
Yeah.
Well,
that may change if he literally hangs up the shoes one day.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen for a while. I think that he's kind of a rare bird. I hope he sticks around. How about have you used any of the Galloway running apps? Have you heard of those? They have Jeff's voice, guiding people through. They have a 26.2 app. A 13.1 app. I think there's a 10K app now. It's by Lolo, and I think it's either $5.99 or $9.99, something like that. But it's cool to have. It'll do different workouts. You can kind of select which ones you want to do, and it's guided with Jeff's voice. And
wow.
I don't know, for somebody that's a Galloway disciple or has been like me,
I can see
99. That was a really powerful way.
But doesn't that eat your eat your battery though? Does
Oh,
it
it
eat
does.
battery life?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tried to use it during a full marathon. I got to 16 miles and the phone died.
Yeah. I could see where that'd be a total battery killer, man. You know, and I don't know, man. I'm kind of torn on some of this stuff. This is kind of weird. This is the first year I've been coaching that I have not grown a bit.
Mhm.
Like every year since I've been doing this, and I started with 20 people at a parking lot. It's been upswing. Now I did a podcast for a few months, and I had one show. We talked about the growth of running. Go out there, Run USA, and they've got a lot of great data out there. It's been exponential growth. And when I looked at that, I'm like, you know what? There's got to be a point where this slows down.
Mhm.
There's got to be a point where, you know, how many knuckleheads like us want to get out of bed and train for a marathon every 6 months, every 4 months, you know? There must be a human or an American, if you look at our country, limit to that. And this is the first year that I've kind of seen things change. And I think what's happening, I think it's technology, and I think it's sometimes people maybe relying too much on technology.
True.
And then there is a proliferation of free stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
Now there's good free stuff and there's bad free stuff.
Very true.
There's Hal Higdon that for years has been giving people schedules. Okay.
Mhm.
I've found when I went through RRCA before it was technically RRCA, it was a little bit different. I went through one of the very first programs when Patty Fink, and what's her husband, they were based out of Portland, and then they would train Kona triathlete Ironman guys in Kona in the summer, and then the summer was Portland,
Okay.
and then the winter they go over to Hawaii. But you know, it's just lost my train of thought. We were talking about what?
Yeah, you're talking about
Galloway and
coaching,
so
certification.
yeah,
Galloway
like
and,
the way the original RRCA had written things out on how to train people for marathons and program as a coach was pretty aggressive. I mean, like when I looked at these schedules, I'm like, there's no way everyday people can get through this training, you know? And I mean, the only reason I knew a little bit about that, I was a fitness trainer and I was doing some endurance things on my own, is just running my own marathons. I'm like, I'm in pretty good shape. Like, and I couldn't even do this stuff.
Wow.
How am I going to coach? I'm going to coach little Janie on doing her first marathon.
Yeah.
That may be 40 pounds overweight and stick her on that schedule. And then I noticed RRCA, when I went through the second round, they tweaked it a little bit for the average Joe or Jane.
Mm-hmm.
But then what's happened now is there's a lot of free things out there. You look at Higdon stuff, in my opinion, it's very aggressive stuff. I mean, even this 5K program, this 10K program. Listen, I've got 6 levels within my 5K, 10K program: walk, pure walker, walk runner, entry level runner, beginner runner, intermediate level at the 5K level. And they all got different schedules. Mm-hmm. And then 10K level, beginner, intermediate. Mm-hmm. Because I've got to have places to slide the walker to. If the walker wants to be a runner, well, I got to progress him to running. And the only way to do that is you got to tell the guy, hey, you got to run once in a while.
Yeah.
So I think there's just a proliferation of free stuff and free apps and honestly, a lot of free tech that's kind of programmed by, in some cases, people that don't have a Galloway behind it. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of thrown out there, you know. True. And then you've got big names like Jeff behind his stuff. But I'm not trying to sell coaching. I'm not trying to sell you as an RRCA coach or me. But you know, I'm still a big believer. Whether you got to lose weight, train for a marathon, train for your first try. My gosh, you know, it could be anything in life, you know, anywhere you need coaching, you need legal advice, you find a good lawyer. My God, you know,
I am still a lawyer, but I'm not practicing anymore. So,
okay. No, I mean, you know, that is, I mean, like there's all these different industries. You've got good and bad within all the other industries. I'm not going to throw any lawyer jokes out at you. You know, all my best friends are lawyers.
I've heard them all, believe me.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is there's, you know, how much money does it cost people in frustration and injuries and co-payments and drugs because they're not either coachable or they don't have a coach.
Yeah.
And I've just seen with my program too, especially when they talk to each other, they get concepts and they're in a group environment and they start chatting about these different concepts and they start talking about exercise physiology and what works and what they learned from a guy like me or a program like mine. Mm-hmm. And then in a good way, it rubs off on them that way. And then, injury rates start going down a little bit, and I mean, they say the average dropout rate in a marathon program nationally is 60%. Mm-hmm. I'm 40% and I'm still kicking myself in the butt, because I want to be 20%, but I'm 20% better than national average. I'll take it. Yeah, but, then I'm like, my God, how can I get down to 20? How can I get down to 10% dropout rate? Which I think is probably not humanly possible because it takes a lot of time and energy to train for a marathon. No way around it.
True. And it's, there are times where the right thing to do is to not run that race. If there's an injury or something, especially, or, overtraining, I think certain people that have overtrained shouldn't be running it either. I mean, it's better to take that day off or run light and, just live to fight another day. We all have moments like that where you've got a race there and you're not in the condition to do it for whatever reason. So,
I don't know. Sometimes you have to burn. I'm echoing all of a sudden. That's weird. Did you hear that echo?
No, I can't. No, it was echoing earlier, but now I think it's stopped.
Blab was having some issues with that. Yeah, it stopped. Like this gal that called me the other day. She's tough, man. She's tough as nails, and she's on the phone describing this thing that just popped up after her peak run. Her peak 22 miler, and but she's one that rolls fast, man. She rolls fast. She runs with a pack that I think is a little one notch over her head. And you do that for the hot summers in Houston, and you take that to a whole other level of pain and punishment. And unfortunately, in Houston, to run a fall marathon like a New York, Chicago, Marine Corps, you've got to train at the hottest time of the year to get ready for a race where you go north to run it, right?
Yeah,
so
that's so hard in Texas, running in summer. I lived in Texas for 4 years. I went to TCU undergrad, so I ran the Dallas Marathon 3 times. So I know, remember what running in July and August in Texas is like. It's
pretty close to torture.
Yeah. It is. And I used to like to run at 5 o'clock, and I don't know why. I think it was because the TCU track team was out training then. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
You're an undergrad. You think you're invincible, and do you run into that with your athletes? You have some that think they're invincible, and
I mean,
go blow a gasket, overdo it.
Yeah, and these are adults. These aren't kids. I mean, I'm actually on a path where I'm thinking about maybe getting certified to be a coach here in Texas, and because I've got this. I don't know. There's a little frustration with me recently with runners because there's a good percentage of them just really, in my opinion, aren't coachable. And these are adults that are, they're doctors and lawyers and college degree people that are pretty smart. And they just don't, but listen, running is addictive,
True.
Running's very addictive, and there's a lot of hey, what's up, Jack?
Hi, how are you? Good.
There's a lot of people that are overdoing it, and sometimes you just can't tell them. You can tell them to stop, but they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then later I'm going, I told you so. It's sad when you see someone's season slip away because they're just not willing to just bring it down a notch. And I'm not talking competitive high schoolers. I'm talking, everyday people got families and things that just want to do fairly well at a marathon or get a new PR, get a new personal best.
Sure.
What running tech would you guys use then?
We were talking about all different types of running tech. Jack, where are you? Are you in the UK somewhere?
I'm based in Ireland.
Okay.
All right, man.
Cool.
I need to get over to Dublin and run your marathon, man. I used to coach.
We just run that one too.
Well, didn't you? It was last weekend, wasn't it?
It was.
It's on a Monday. It's on a bank holiday. It's on a Monday, correct?
Yeah, Monday.
Okay. I used to coach a group here in Houston it's called it was called Joints in Motion. It was the Arthritis Foundation. That's how I started my coaching career. So we would coach about 100 people to run either Dublin or Honolulu Marathon.
Wow.
So we get them. It's kind of crazy. We get them ready here in Houston for that race, and then half the group would jump on a plane and go to Dublin. Half would go to Honolulu. I always took the Honolulu trip. I never got a chance to go to Dublin.
No,
but
not the Dublin. Dublin didn't fancy
yeah,
the
but
cold.
I'll tell you a quick hilarious story about your marathon that I heard from one of the runners. Because I asked her, like, man, how was that race? And she goes, well, it was pretty good. She goes, I think half the town was drunk by noon when we came in because it's like a bank holiday. So people are partying. I hear you guys have like Pub Row that's in the downtown area, right?
Yeah.
So the race finishes, I believe, down by where all the pubs are at. So people are just pouring drunk by noon, from what I heard. You know, I mean, just a little rumor. I hear you.
On a normal day, way, so.
Well, I hear a little rumor. I hear you Irish guys drink a little bit. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, drink quite a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I was hearing stories. I'm like, well, how was the race? Like, how are the people and the crowd? She goes, oh my God, those people love Americans, man. She goes, I stopped at this guy's house, and he invited me into my home, and he's like, do you need to use the loo? Come on and use the loo. And she said, these people are inviting people into their homes to go to the bathroom. It was hilarious. So, so what are you? You look like a pretty young guy. Are you I assume you run a little bit, huh?
I'm in actually I'm in medical school. Kind of just run for a bit of fun, not more than anything else.
Good.
So,
Oh, cool.
So I use the Apple Watch
Okay.
at the moment.
I haven't tried that.
Wow.
I've
Okay.
One of my
been
phones.
curious about it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome actually.
So there's a running app that you use on there as a part of.
so that works through GPS, and then it has a built-in heart rate monitor on it, so detects
Wow.
it that way, just on the wrist.
Yeah. We were talking about Garmin. Like, I've got the baby Garmin.
Okay.
Jeremy's got the 620. Is that a 620?
Yep.
Oh yeah, very good.
Which is a, of course, Garmin started as a pure GPS company. And, they developed all the stuff that you have in your car. And then at one point now we have human GPS, like what you're wearing with the watch.
I used to have the Nike one, their
Yeah.
version,
Nike one?
Sport Band, or
Yeah.
so it was. I used it for a while, but it was. I had to have the heart rate monitor on and things like that. It was linked up to the shoe as well. It was all right. Like, it was too much hassle to get organized to go for a run when really all you want to do is just get up and go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the foot? Well, you had the foot pod on there. Was it the one with the foot pod?
Yeah.
How was the transition to the Apple Watch, Jack? Was it tough to
Seamless.
adjust?
Literally
Easy?
simple. So obviously you have to have an iPhone to have one, but really, really straightforward.
Are you running it off? Do they have their own run app that you're running off of on it, or using another external?
They have an activities app, so you'll choose that you want to do either an outdoor run or an indoor run. And then it can work it out through either your movement or GPS.
And then does that have to sync, or does it just automatically go to your iPhone from your watch?
Yeah, automatically. Straight off.
Okay.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and it's not a bad price either.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to a lot of the other running watches, the Apple Watch does more than just the activity section. So it's quite.
Go ahead.
I've used their sleep app that comes, not the watch, but have you guys tried the Apple Sleep app?
I need to look that up. I've had sleep issues in the past. I need to look that up.
Yeah, that's
you put it beside your pillow, and then it
what
wakes
you
you up
do.
at the lightest point to sleep.
Yeah, what you do is you have to put it face down.
Yeah,
you have to keep it charged because it burns some pretty good electricity. So you have it plugged in on your nightstand, and they tell you to take the edge of your bed, the edge of your sheet, and stick it on the corner face down, and it measures your movement while you're sleeping. So it tells you can tell when you're going into REM.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the VivoFit supposedly measured that too, but I'm not sure how accurate some of the sleep data was.
So it charts out. So it when you time to go to bed, you hit go to bed, and then when you wake up, you hit wake up. And I think it needs about a week's worth of data, but and it gets into you got to be consistent with your sleep and all that. But after a while, it tells you your optimal time to go to bed and get up to maximize your REM, which is pretty. And REM's all about recovery, as you guys know.
So is that the Sleep Cycle app? Is it called Sleep Cycle? Yeah.
Give it a shot. I'm sure it works with a watch too, but I think you need your phone because it needs a pretty good. It needs something that's pretty. It's got some volume to it.
Yeah, something to detect the movement.
And it's really weird. You get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom or something. It's like you can see like where because like when you get off the bed, I guess it somehow reads that. It's pretty amazing.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how it works, but I've been playing with that a little bit to look at recovery and things like that.
Yeah. The only thing I would worry about with that is the radiation coming off the phone. The studies aren't really conclusive yet about sleeping with your phone behind or beside your head all night. So
yeah.
That's true. I would have.
You med students, man, you're worrying me.
So Jeff, how do you look at the Apple data? Can you log into that on your computer, or do you have to look at it on your phone with the activities section or whatever?
Yeah, it would be on the phone, so it only pairs with an iPhone. So there's a set app. There's one for activity, and then there's also a health app. So the health app can tell you your distance, your heart rate throughout the day, when it was at its peak, when it was at lowest. It's
cool.
Pretty
standard
good
stuff you need. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
We were talking. You guys have you tried? Have you tried Map My Run or anything like that?
I haven't tried that one. No. Is that the Under Armour version? Is it?
Yeah. They purchased. They bought it out. Yeah, it's pretty good. They've got a PC. There's an online. You can do it online too with your account where you can actually map out routes.
Yeah.
You can map out a route, and then what really comes in handy with that, guys, is you can map a route online anywhere in the world, save it, bookmark it. Then what you do is you get your iPhone out, you pull it up, you go to routes, my routes, bookmark, pull the route up, and then when you start the route, you say do route, and you're like literally a dot on your route. You're following the route. Comes in a little bit better like when I've traveled and I'm going to a place where I know it's safe to run. I can pull up my hotel, from anywhere in the world. Like say I'm making a trip to New York and I want to run Central Park or whatever. I can map out a route through Central Park, save it, bookmark it. Then when I get to Central Park, I can get there and say do route, and I just follow the route so I don't get lost.
That's handy.
I suppose you have to look at the watch then to know where you need to go next.
Well, yeah, generally, but if you're in a strange town, man, you don't want to take a wrong turn,
Yeah, and I'm the type of person that does get lost in a strange town.
Yeah. So what's nice, what comes in handy, like say this is the route, and you're running, and you're into your music or whatever, and you're over here, you're like a dot, you're off the route, so you're like, okay, crap, man, I just took a wrong turn, and you can get back on route, so you don't make that 8-mile run like 16-mile run because you get lost.
What's quite good with the Apple Watch is if you're looking for directions, when you get to a point where you need to change direction, and it works with walking as well, it'll vibrate in your wrist. So at that point, then you can look up to see that what direction you need to go.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So you just get the sort of taptic feedback, like a mini.
I'm waiting for Garmin, like that 620 you have, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the map to just pop up on the thing.
Oh, that's nice. The Garmin Connect app on the iPhone is very disappointing, and it just changed too.
I know.
Every month it looks different, and so you can't really use it very well. You might as well just log into Garmin Connect on a computer, which I think is what most of us do that use Garmin Connect. One app I was going to mention that I haven't yet is Smash My Run. I don't know if any of you have tried that, but it links with Garmin, and then you can get badges. You can, kind of see where your friends are running. It'll track run streaks. Just, that's pretty cool.
A bit more motivation to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't really require you do anything. It'll import your data from Garmin or whatever your data source is, if it's a major one. I imagine it probably is importing Apple data by now, although I haven't looked into that. Runbit is another one that company has pitched to me, but that's kind of it's free up to a certain point, but past a certain point, you have to start paying for it. So,
You know, I mean, like miles?
It's like, if you get to level 5 or so, it's free. And then level 6 and above, you got to pay for it, which, if you're going to charge me for an app, fine, charge me, but don't make me make an in-app purchase while I'm out running or something like that. So I'll probably test that one, but I don't know where that, that point is where you start paying. I don't know if it's one of these multiple level things where you have to keep paying for every level. I get a lot of use out of Strava. I don't know if you've heard of Strava, Jack, or not, but it imports your Garmin data and kind of allows you to track mileage on your shoes, and you can compete against your friends, or see how many kilometers you run a month, things like that. It just all different kinds of challenges and competitions and that type of thing.
I'll have to check that one out.
But I've really been impressed with Strava, and I used to love Runkeeper, but it had some accuracy issues this summer, and so I just finally dumped it. And I hope Runkeeper isn't the plus one that's listening to this blab right now, but if they are, they need to fix their app. So, and if it happens to be Garmin, we're available as beta testers. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's a fun thing to do. Some companies will ask people to be beta testers for apps, to tell them where the bugs are or whatever, and they can fix them before they get the next version out there. And but unfortunately, that's very competitive. You've got to really be an elite to even get an offer like that, I think. So Jack, are you pretty much sticking with the Apple Watch, you think, as far as tracking all your fitness, or do you use other technology, or?
Yeah, pretty much sticking with the Apple Watch at the moment.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I've got a few friends that have drinking the Apple Kool-Aid, Apple Watch Kool-Aid, and they love it. I mean, they love it. I just, I'm a little bit older than you, Jack, so I don't know. I'm a little bit old school, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. I'm like, at first everyone thought it was kind of this Dick Tracy experiment, and I don't know if you're even old enough to know who Dick Tracy is, but it seems to be. I see a lot of people wearing them here in Houston, here in Texas. So hopefully, I'm sure they're using them if they've got them on their wrist.
Yeah.
What was that?
Can't hear him very well. Can you hear him, Michael?
No.
The audio is your audio is breaking up, Jack. I don't know what. And guys, I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon. Our dog wants to go outside, and I'm the only one home. So
no problem.
So I appreciate this opportunity to talk with both of you about technology, and anybody else that's watching. And I intend to revisit this from time to time to talk about this and other running topics. So feel free to pop in for any other blab or discussion. Be happy to talk to you about it further. Okay.
All right, guys.
All right. Thanks.
Take care.
All right.
I'm going to follow you, Jack. I need an Irish guy on. I need to follow somebody from Ireland, that great country on Blab. So I got you hooked up.
First time I've ever been on Blab. So
really cool,
awesome,
man.
Well,
cool.
welcome.
You'll enjoy it.
Glad you're here. There's a lot of Irish folks here and a lot of people from the UK. So it's good to have friends from across the pond, so to speak. So
yeah. Take care.
All right.
All right, see you later.
Thanks.
All right. See ya. All right.
Bye. I'm going to wrap this up, everybody, and sign off. This is Jeremy Murphy in Lincoln, Nebraska, and my RRCA certified running coach, a blog at runninggrooveshark.com. You can reach me on Twitter at Jeremy P. Murphy. And I want to thank Michael and Jack for joining me today on the Blab, and happy to discuss running technology and other running topics with you in the future. So please stay tuned for future running shows. I've got a running show coming up on November 5th, I think is the next one. I've got a 1 month countdown to the Run Laughlin half marathon that I'm running in Arizona and Nevada. So take care. This is Jeremy Murphy signing off from Lincoln, Nebraska. Thanks for joining us. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye. Happy running.